on, and then I got a video I want to show you guys today, among several other things.
I'll share something.
Please.
I yesterday received a call for somebody I'd spoken to a few months ago that had previously ghosted me, but I'd continued with the text and in touch points and cards and whatnot. And he called me with a referral.
Nice. Nice.
And left me the opportunity to ask him, so how's your search going? And plant some additional seeds for him. So he was like putting off buying, they want to save, and had the conversation of, well, the longer you save, the home price is going up. He's like, who hadn't thought about that? And, just because the mortgage is 30 years doesn't mean you have to live there for 30 years. You live in it. First home, you live for 5, you save there while you're paying into your mortgage, not a rent.
Well, here's one thing is buying. I think Aubrey talked about this yesterday. Buying is just a way to fix your housing payment for 30 years, with the exception of taxes, right?
Right.
Now, if you were to make a guess, do you think that rents will be going up in the future or down in the future?
Of course, and that's it. And that's what I said. I'm like, well,
just so everyone hears that
the answer
to that
rents
is
will
up,
go up
right?
forever. Yeah.
You just muted yourself.
Sorry. Yeah, rents will go up forever. Yeah. I mean, that's
Okay, so if you want to avoid forever rents going up, then you purchase and you solidify your housing payment until you're ready for a change.
Exactly. While you're building the equity in the house and not just giving the rent money to someone else. So.
Right. Well, you're either going to be building your own equity or you're going to be building your landlord's equity.
Exactly. Yeah. So he went that. Hadn't thought about it that way. That's a different way to look at it. So I'm sure he's having another conversation with his wife.
Yeah, and you check in with him. Hey, I was thinking about you. Have a great weekend. If you have any questions,
I already got a thank you card for the referral.
Beautiful.
And Yep. So I was surprised to see his name on my caller ID, and I was like, oh. But
I got two. I want to tell you guys. I actually got 2 referrals yesterday from past clients. One of which, first of all, you never know. Like, if you had told me that I was going to get 2 referrals yesterday, these are probably 2 of the last people that I would have expected to get referrals from. So, keep in mind that you just never know what people think about the experience working together. One woman lives out in like way out, like in Decula or something like that. And I had referred her, I met her at like an open house probably 10, 12 years ago. She ended up buying a house without me. Then she wanted to sell it and reached out to me because I had continued to reach out to her. And I referred it to another agent that was closer to her area who did not sell the house, several times being listed, right? And she ultimately moved back into it and called me. And I swear to you, I was like the way she was speaking to me, I was like her best friend. It was amazing. Okay. And another guy, he wanted to rent his home. I ended up referring him to a property manager because they wanted the property manager and the listing agent to be the same person. Never have I gotten paid off of working with this guy for over 15 years. And now he wants to sell his house in Marietta. I haven't talked to him in years and years and years. So you just never know the impression you're making on people. Okay. All right. Who wants to, actually, I got a bunch of stuff I want to go over with you. I'm going to quickly answer a question that was posted in the help group this morning. And then I want to talk to you about the unique value proposition. Okay. And give you a couple of housekeeping stuff. So we know single family homes ownership is what's called fee simple. So you own the ground that the home is on, you own the structure, you own the roof, right, et cetera. Nothing strange going on there. There's also ownership called condominium ownership. That's where the term condos comes from, okay? When you see something that looks, it's a building and they've got a bunch of units all next to each other and there's shared walls, more often than not, that's condominium ownership, okay? In condominium ownership, the owner of the unit owns the walls and in, okay? They do not own the structure, the facade. They do not own the ground that the unit is on. They do not own the roof. Okay, the master association of the homeowners association owns that stuff. And you own, like, let's say 1% of it as being an owner of unit 101 or something. Okay, you pay the HOA fees and they maintain that, exterior and the roofs and the facades and all that kind of thing. Okay, then there's townhomes. The vast majority of townhomes are fee simple ownership, meaning you own the ground that it's on, you own the roof, you have to maintain the roof, etc. Okay, there are some units that look like townhomes that are actually condominium ownership. If they are condominium ownership, it is very clear by looking at the legal description. So whenever you have a question about, do I use this amendment, or not amendment, but a addendum, and this, what was the exact wording you used? The condo resale purchase and sale exhibit, you would only use that if the ownership for that unit was condominium. So if you look at the legal description, it'll use the word condominium. If it uses the word fee simple, that means you do not need that exhibit. Okay. And even the more confusing part is you're starting to get some townhome associations that the roof is like the biggest question, right? Is the roof maintained by the association or is the roof maintained by the individuals? So if it is fee simple townhomes, you got to ask that question just so you know, and you can communicate that to your prospect. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay.
Yeah, I do. I have one.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry. I'm struggling to find where I find out if it's. I don't know where to look.
You just need the legal description.
I don't know where to get it.
So you email Kern with O'Kelly and Sorhan, and you give them the property address, you give them the county that the home is in, and the owner's name of the property if you have it. And when they have that information, they'll email it right back to you. There is a service where you can pay, I think it's a few bucks a month, and you can access it yourself. But if you don't want to pay for that service, you just email Kern. Okay.
I think you also have to give them the parcel as well too. You can find it.
Like if it's somebody's name, like, Bob Jones, I'd probably give them a little bit more information. If it's like slightly a unique name, they could probably find it from the address in the county.
I always send them parcel ID, county, address, and owner's names.
You guys are so good.
I sent them one without it, and then they always email me back and say, make sure you have all of these items. So
where
you guys are so thorough. I'm like, hey, Kern, give me the legal description for that house on the corner over there.
Where do you find the parcel ID, guys? I'm looking.
That's on the tax report.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah, that's on the tax report through Relist. Okay.
Bill, I just wanted to add in that windows can sometimes be iffy as well.
Yeah, on what?
Windows can sometimes be iffy as well.
Oh, yeah. With ownership, like who maintains the windows or who would fix a broken window or something like that. Exactly. What I have found, I have yet to find, if I'm thinking about this correctly, a condominium that the HOA would maintain the window. Like I had to replace a window in my condo that I own that I rent, and I had to pay for that. So yeah, windows is a little tricky, but more often than not, I've seen that be an owner responsibility. Okay. Okay, I want to go through a couple of housekeeping things real fast. First of all, tomorrow, so tomorrow at between 12 and 1, we're going to be doing our success series with Paige Pace, sorry. And then a launch mastermind from 1 to 2 afterwards. Okay, Paige is going to be kind of introducing herself, talking about, her business and her she's a top producer. She's the one, I think she made like 90 grand in December or something like that. So like she's a top producer. She has some awesome marketing ideas. You could follow her on Facebook and Instagram. She's got a lot of cool stuff going on. She's actually going to be talking a little bit about the contract to close process. So that is in this room from 12 to 1 tomorrow. And of course we have our launch mastermind from 1 to 2. Okay. We have a very exciting announcement to make tomorrow, so you got to stay tuned. Please attend our session at 8:30 tomorrow, and you get all of the news. And we're going to rearrange some of the schedulings and give you some more offerings starting tomorrow. But I'm going to share that with you guys then. Okay, so please make it a point to be in this room at 8:30 sharp tomorrow, so we can cover everything we want to cover. Okay, any questions? Okay, I've got a long video that I want to show you guys, but I want you to be thinking about two concepts while you're watching this video. Okay, today I want to talk to you about your unique value proposition. Your unique value proposition. The idea there is you want to be able to communicate to people why your business exists and essentially what purpose your business has. So I'm looking at 23 people on the group, and thank you. This is a well-attended class. I appreciate you being here, right? Why would this group represents 23 different businesses that basically all do the same thing, right? So why would somebody choose to work with Marie when they could work with Mary? Or why would somebody choose to work with Mindy when they can work with Markia, right? So what separates you from your competition? What causes somebody to have basically an emotional reaction to want to spend time with you to go through this process? Okay, so what I want you to do, this is the way I was always taught to do a unique value proposition. Okay, I want you to take a sheet of paper and I want you to go like this. Okay, I want you to divide it in half like this. And on the left-hand side, I want you to write everything that you love to do. Okay, what am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? Okay, and on the right-hand side, I want you to write what you are experienced in. So let's say you've been a manager or something, like you've led people, you've inspired people, you have gotten certain designations, or you know another language, or any of that kind of thing, right? What are you good at, and what are you experienced in? Okay, and these are the concepts that I want you to have in mind when we're watching this video, and then after the video we'll do a little bit of wrap up. Okay, if you've seen the video, I've seen this video, I don't know, maybe 100 times, because it's that important. It's my understanding, this may have changed, I haven't looked up this stat lately, but I believe this is the second most watched TED Talk ever. Okay, so it's a little long, hang in there, and we're going to recap when we're done. Okay, any questions? All right, here we go. Can everyone hear this?
Can you turn it up a little, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it? There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery, and this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean, what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done. That's how most sales is done. And that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do. We say how we're different or how we're better. And we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You ready to buy a computer from me? All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company?
Hang on.
But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, you know, there's if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered man flight was like the .com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now, you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people always give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions. It's always the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 sets of parts because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually, on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight. And no one was there to even experience it. We found out about it a few days later. And further proof that Langley was motivated by the wrong thing, the day the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He could have said, that's an amazing discovery, guys. Now I'll improve upon your technology. But he didn't. He wasn't first. He didn't get rich. He didn't get famous. So he quit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Well, why is it important to attract those who believe what you believe? Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. And if you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. The only reason these people buy touch-tone phones is because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all sit at various places at various times on the scale, but what the law of diffusion of innovation tells us is that if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration, and then the system tips. And I love asking businesses, what's your conversion on new business? And they love to tell you, oh, it's about 10% proudly. Well, you can trip over 10% of the customers. We all have about 10% who just get it. That's how we describe them, right? That's like that gut feeling. Oh, they just get it. The problem is, how do you find the ones that just get it before you're doing business with them versus the ones who don't get it? So it's this here, this little gap that you have to close, as Jeffrey Moore calls it, crossing the chasm. Because you see, the early majority will not try something until someone else has tried it first. And these guys, the innovators and the early adopters, they're comfortable making those gut decisions. They're more comfortable making those intuitive decisions that are driven by what they believe about the world and not just what product is available. These are the people who stood online for 6 hours to buy an iPhone when they first came out, when you could have just walked into the store the next week and bought one off the shelf. These are the people who spent $40,000 on flat screen TVs when they first came out, even though the technology was substandard. And by the way, they didn't do it because the technology was so great. They did it for themselves. It's because they wanted to be first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe. The reason that person bought the iPhone in the first 6 hours, or stood in line for 6 hours, was because of what they believed about the world and how they wanted everybody to see them. They were first. People don't buy what you do.
Bill, the audio went out.
Success is money and the right people and the right marketing conditions, right? You should have success then. Look at TiVo. From the time TiVo came out, about famous example, a famous failure and a famous success of the law of diffusion of innovation. First, the famous failure. It's a commercial example. As we said before a second ago, the recipe for success is money and the right people and the right.
Somebody's got something else going on in the background.
Look at TiVo. From the time TiVo came out about 8 or 9 years ago to this current day, they are the single highest quality product on the market. Hands down, there is no dispute.
Can you turn it up a smidgen, please?
Extremely well funded. Market conditions were fantastic. I mean, we use TiVo as a verb. I TiVo stuff on my piece of junk Time Warner DVR all the time. But TiVo's commercial failure, they've never made money. And when they went IPO, their stock was at about $30 or $40 and then plummeted, and it's never traded above 10. In fact, I don't think it's even traded above 6, except for a couple of little spikes. Because you see, when TiVo launched their product, they told us all what they had. They said, we have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, rewinds live TV, and memorizes your viewing habits without you even asking. And the cynical majority said, we don't believe you. We don't need it. We don't like it. You're scaring us. What if they had said, if you're the kind of person who likes to have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, etc., etc. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply serves as the proof of what you believe. Now let me give you a successful example of the law of diffusion of innovation. In the summer of 1963, 250,000 people showed up on the Mall in Washington to hear Dr. King speak. They sent out no invitations, and there was no website to check the date. How do you do that? Well, Dr. King wasn't the only man in America who was a great orator. He wasn't the only man in America who suffered in a pre-civil rights America. In fact, some of his ideas were bad, but he had a gift. He didn't go around telling people what needed to change in America. He went around and told people what he believed. I believe, I believe, I believe, he told people. And people who believed what he believed took his cause and they made it their own, and they told people. And some of those people created structures to get the word out to even more people. And lo and behold, 250,000 people showed up on the right day, on the right time to hear him speak. How many of them showed up for him? 0. They showed up for themselves. It's what they believed about America that got them to travel on a bus for 8 hours to stand in the sun in Washington in the middle of August. It's what they believed, and it wasn't about black versus white. 25% of the audience was white. Dr. King believed that there are two types of laws in this world, those that are made by a higher authority and those that are made by man. And not until all the laws that are made by man are consistent with the laws that are made by the higher authority will we live in a just world. It just so happens that the civil rights movement was the perfect thing to help him bring his cause to life. We followed him not for him, but for ourselves. And by the way, he gave the I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Listen to politicians now with their comprehensive 12-point plans. They're not inspiring anybody. Because there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power or authority, but those who lead inspire us. Whether they're individuals or organizations, we follow those who lead, not because we have to, but because we want to. We follow those who lead, not for them, but for ourselves. And it's those who start with why that have the ability to inspire those around them or find others who inspire them. Thank you very much.
All right. Give me an aha.
Can I just say that might be one of the most paradigm shifting things I have seen in a long time. And I would love to have that guy's baby at this point. He's fantastic. He is awesome.
I've never gotten that exact feedback anytime I've ever shown this. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's you know, I was drafting kind of a real estate spin on this, just to give you a little bit of an example, right? And the why, so we start with the why, right? So I feel inspired to create clients for life and to help them build financial freedom and wealth. And therefore, I have a mission to become the economist of choice and help a lot of families buy and invest and sell real estate. Would you like to work together? Right? That sounds a lot different than I sell homes for 98% of list price and I have sold the last 2 homes in this neighborhood, sign here, right? That's one of the ideas behind creating a mission statement, because you're helping people understand where you want to go, what the purpose of this organization is. It's been a while since I've read this out loud to you guys, but I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to, I want you to always be evaluating this program and any changes we make to the program in light of this mission statement, okay? And if you think we're not living up to the mission statement, I want you to pull me aside and tell me, okay? Because this is what I believe in, and I want to make sure that everything we do is a representation of that. It says, our mission is to create a community of learning-based and purpose-driven leaders focused together on accelerating the trajectory of our businesses and the quality of our lives. Using the powerful leverage of Keller Williams models, systems, and technology, we intend to create abundant lives for ourselves and for those we support. Right? So I'd like to work with big thinkers, learning-based, purpose-driven, abundant thinking, quality of lives, accelerating trajectory. Does that make sense? So for example, if somebody comes in, they're like, why would I share any ideas with somebody? Right? They're my ideas. Well, you're probably not going to like this group that much. You're probably not going to like Keller Williams that much, to be honest. You see what I'm saying? Okay, let's hear another aha or two.
He said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Okay, and go into a tiny bit more. Give me a tiny bit more. What happens as a result of that?
Well, when you start with why, they, it resonates with their decision-making limbic brain. So it helps them make the decision. It's not, that's something I need. It's, It's why I need it. It's the whole reason for it.
Right. That's putting, like a good example of that would be like a buyer prospect says, I want a big backyard. And then you say, okay, well, a big backyard means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. What does it mean to you? Right. So then they tell you what it means. Right. And they'll say, oh, it needs to be a quarter of an acre, or it needs to have no slope, or it needs to be, whatever, no trees or something. And then you would say, well, why is that important to you? That's where it goes emotional, right? Because they said, well, I grew up on a big yard, and I always loved having a big yard because it meant that my family would always be together, or something like that, right? So they vocalize that type of emotional detail with you. The second you show them a home with the right backyard, it's time for action, right? Plus, you're building a lot of rapport with them. Remember how the other day I said if somebody gets emotional with you, sometimes we're asking, particularly in recruiting, we're asking people about, their dreams and their goals and what they want and what they're frustrated with, and like we get them to like picture their life in a different way. Everything starts shifting. Now the trust is increasing. Now the patience is increasing. The teamwork is increasing, right? Because they start, I mean, gosh, when I was recruited to Keller Williams, Denise, who was the woman who recruited me, the team leader at the time, she honestly asked me questions my wife hadn't even asked me. You see what I'm saying? She knows things about me. Well, my wife probably knows now, but like, she never asked me that stuff before, right? And I felt compelled. I was like, if that woman is making me think the way I'm thinking now, I need to hang out with her more. Make sense? Heather, I think you were about to say something.
Oh, I was just gonna say something dumb. I was just about like the what you're talking about our group, people who come in who don't like the whole like, sharing information. I was just gonna say explaining to them like I explain it to my like little kids, sharing is caring.
Right. Well, it also goes back to the abundant mindset, right? If I believe that there's enough business out there for me and you and whoever else wants it, then what difference does it make if I give you my checklist or I tell you a script I use to help me get a listing?
I
right?
think if we're all helping everybody, just from my experience, I mean, I've never worked with another company before, but I have friends who work for different companies that are very cutthroat, don't help each other. And I think we get farther because we help each other.
That's right. I mean, I wrote this in the mission statement, right? We're creating abundant lives, right? Abundancy. There's plenty of listings out there. There was like 1,100 listings this week, guys. Like, that's plenty. That's more than enough for you guys to hit all your goals in 1 week, right? All right. Greta, did you want to say one more thing? I saw your square light up.
I'm good.
In order for you to say that you wanted to have this man's babies, what was the most important thing you heard?
I think I wrote down what struck me is people do the things that prove what they believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a dream speech, not I have a plan speech. I thought was pretty brilliant, along with just the concept of I am inspired. And so I wrote those things down to kind of help guide me as I work on my unique value proposition, because I was coming at it from the outside in, and I really like the inside out theory.
Yeah. It's going to sound different than you're used to hearing, right?
I think the challenge is to not make it me centered.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, think about it. Gateway and all the other computer companies that we don't know really anything about, they were all started around the same time Apple was started. So, and if you watch more of Simon Sinek's stuff, like he talks about, like they had access to all the same talented people. They were all hanging out in the same, Xerox and all the other, original tech companies. Yet Apple attracted people that believed in the mission rather than just making a product. Does that make sense? So
Hey, Bill. Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
I think more than anything, what he was saying about Apple as well too is that they kept it simple. You know, even though they did what everybody else did, they didn't try to overdo it. They did what they stayed in their lane and they executed that and then expanded.
Yeah, what's interesting is if you watch an Apple commercial now, it's basically just a story that runs in the same theme of what they believe in. And at the very end, they show their logo, right? They're not saying, well, we have 256 megabytes now, and our computer screen is this much better. Quite frankly, they don't even care. They just want to buy Apple because they believe in what Apple believes in. Does that make sense? So if you guys are want to spend some time creating or beginning to create your unique value proposition, I'm more than happy to give you my thoughts and feedback on that. Just send it to me privately, and I'll give you some ideas, or help kind of coach you around some of your ideas. Anyone else want to share anything? Okay. Please do me a favor and put 8:30 on your calendar for tomorrow. I'd love to have a big group so we can share some new news. And you guys go out there and have an awesome day. Thanks for sharing today.